Am I the butthole for kicking my boyfriend's ex out of our house? Hey Reddit, I'm reaching out because I'm in a tough spot and could really use some outside perspective. My boyfriend Scott 32M and I 30F have been together for a year and a half, and recently we've had a huge disagreement involving his ex-girlfriend Jessie 31F. Here's the full story. Scott and Jessie were in a serious relationship for about 4 years before they broke up 2 years ago. From what Scott has told me, their breakup was mutual and amicable. They decided to stay friends, which I was initially okay with, even though I had some reservations. Scott assured me that there were no lingering feelings between them, and I trusted him on that. Jessie lived in a different city for the past couple of years, so her presence in our lives was minimal. However, a few weeks ago, Jessie's apartment underwent some unexpected renovations that left her without a place to stay. When Scott learned about her situation, he offered for her to stay with us temporarily until her place was ready. He assured me it would only be for a week or so, and at first, I didn't make a fuss. I figured it was a small favor to ask and that it would be a short-term inconvenience. Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned. Jessie's stay quickly extended from a week to 2 weeks, then 3 weeks, and it became apparent that she was settling in for the long haul. She started bringing over more and more of her belongings, and it began to feel like she was moving in permanently. Her presence was affecting our daily life more than I had anticipated. One of the biggest issues was that Jessie began to encroach on our personal space. She started using our kitchen and rearranging things in the apartment, which made me feel like our home was no longer just ours. She even took it upon herself to organize our closet, moving my things around to make space for her stuff. I tried to be patient, but it felt like my boundaries were being completely disregarded. I attempted to talk to Scott about my concerns. I explained that while I understood Jessie needed a place to stay, her extended presence was becoming a serious issue. I was feeling increasingly uncomfortable and stressed, and it was starting to impact my sense of peace in our home. Scott, however, didn't seem to grasp the extent of my discomfort. He said I was being overly sensitive and that Jessie was in a tough spot, so it was only fair to let her stay with us. Despite my attempts to communicate my feelings, Scott was insistent that Jessie's stay was reasonable. He argued that it was a temporary situation, and that helping a friend in need was the right thing to do. He also pointed out that Jessie didn't have many other options for accommodation and that finding an alternative would be more complicated for her. The situation reached a breaking point last weekend. Jessie decided to throw a small get-together in our living room without asking for permission. When I came home, I was met with a chaotic scene. Our space was filled with strangers, loud music was playing, and there was a mess everywhere. I felt completely disrespected. I had to clean up after the party, and the experience left me feeling furious and overwhelmed. At that moment, I couldn't take it anymore. I told Scott that I needed Jessie to move out. I felt like I had reached my limit and that our home was no longer a place where I felt comfortable. Scott was taken aback and upset. He accused me of being unreasonable and said that I was kicking Jessie out just because I couldn't handle a little inconvenience. He argued that I should be more understanding and supportive of his friendship with Jessie. Our argument escalated quickly. Scott told me that if I wanted Jessie out, I would have to make that decision myself. I was left feeling hurt and confused, especially since I had tried to handle the situation as diplomatically as possible. I eventually told Jessie that she needed to find somewhere else to stay by the end of the week. She was understandably upset and hurt by the abrupt change. Since then, Jessie has found a temporary place to stay, but the fallout from this situation has been significant. Scott and I are not on the best terms. He has been distant and cold, and it feels like the trust between us has been damaged. I'm struggling with whether I made the right decision. On one hand, I feel like I needed to stand up for my boundaries and reclaim my space. On the other hand, I don't want to be seen as the bad guy who jeopardizes relationships over my own discomfort. I've also talked to some friends about this, and their opinions are mixed. Some agree with me, saying it's reasonable to set boundaries when it comes to EXEs and that Jessie's behavior was crossing a line. Others think I'm overreacting and that I should have been more accommodating. They believe my feelings of discomfort might stem from personal insecurities rather than any real issue with Jessie staying with us. So, Reddit, am I the butthole for kicking Scott's ex out of our house? Was it unreasonable to set this boundary, or should I have handled it differently given the circumstances?